under compulsion, and not necessarily cheerful about it. How to persuade big, indifferent audiences to take an interest in a subject they basically didn't care about. It was a working education for me, and it turned out to be good preparation for writing a book. Besides teaching a full load, I was still researching my dissertation, and now I had the Macmillan project on my plate as well. I put in a lot of time at the State Archives, taking notes from documents handwritten in the 19th century. That operation was yet another foreign country of the past. The Xerox copying machine was new and expensive per page. The IBM Selectric typewriter was several years from coming on the market. The only computers were mainframes. The personal computer was a long way off in the future, and a laptop with a hard drive and Wi-Fi was not even science fiction. I took notes the same way the first professional historian of Hawaii, Ralph Kui Kendall, had done, and he was born in the 19th century. For him in his time, and for me in mine, pen and ink was the way, plus Sitzfleisch, just as it had been 100 years ago. The only difference was that back then it was steel nibs and inkwells. Kui Kendall used a fountain pen on 3x5-inch notepads, and I used a ballpoint pen on sheets of 8.5 by 11-inch typing paper, folded and torn in half. When it came time to start putting my own words on paper, I handwrote drafts, first, second, third, however many, and did final drafts on a manual portable typewriter. Once I turned in my dissertation, I could concentrate, after teaching and office hours, on the Macmillan project, which raised a question. What resources of my own could I bring to bear on trying to write a book? I had learned to read when I was very young. Soon enough, I didn't have to move my lips on the big words, and I read all the time, faster and faster, more and more, anything and everything, from comics to technical manuals, encyclopedias, and grown-up novels. Age-appropriate was not in the language yet. I wouldn't have known how to put the thought into words, but I was reading to learn about life, and one of the things I learned was that there had been other lives and other times, nothing like mine. This was when it first occurred to me that there was such a thing as history. By my mid to late teens, still reading nonstop, I was coming to perceive that there was something called style and something called structure, and in the best books, the two came together. Without knowing it, I was reading to learn about writing. Doing graduate work, I found out how laborious historical research could be, and how labored most academic writing was, a lot of it unreadable by ordinary people. I didn't want to write that way, certainly not for publication. In my mind, a published book was not, and should not be, a dissertation. I didn't want to bury anyone under dump trucks of evidence just to show that I had done a lot of work, any more than people who were interested to see an athlete or a dancer perform should have to sit through endless hours of training or rehearsal. To my way of thinking, publication was its own kind of performance for an audience, and the history books that I liked were shaped by technique unobtrusively serving art and craft. I came up with a motto that, after 50 years and 16 books, I still recite to myself: never let the writing get in the way of the reading. This first book took me a lot longer than I had imagined it would, another part of my continuing education. By the chances of life, well before I was through drafting chapters, I got a research grant for a year in Europe to start work on what became another book down the road. My unfinished Macmillan business meant that I had to take all my notes with me. I bought a jumbo-sized suitcase, cheapo. Packed to bursting, it weighed in at just about maximum economy class poundage, and my hand carry was my portable typewriter. My wife and I rented a bedsitter in London, and that was where I finished writing, much of it at night, after putting in daytime research hours at the British Library and the Public Record Office. What to call the book? I decided on Shoal of Time, a phrase from Shakespeare that I thought was suitable for islands in history. The typed manuscript was ream size and ream weight. My wife wrapped it with great care for airmailing to New York, and I stuffed my stacks of notes back in their cheapo suitcase. Heading home to Hawaii on our round-the-world